spent in a miserable way.
U.S. News: Supreme Court could stop Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax D3ad in its tracks. Senior Elizabeth Warren, the proposal, which would raise trillions of dollars to fund a host of social programs that are key to the Massachusetts Senator's agenda, would awaken an area of constitutional law that has lain dormant for decades, experts say. And it would put Warren, if elected president, on an early collision course with a branch of government that could determine the success or failure of her administration. It is a concern the campaign is aware of. Behind the scenes, but that work was likely just the start of a long process that is shaping up to be the first major legal test of a candidate who was once an influential professor at Harvard Law School. Read more. But it could be a nightmare for a national administration butting heads with a conservative court over a tax that Warren has said she would use to provide funding for investments in childcare, reductions of student loan debt and an ambitious slate of climate policies. The proposal would impose a 2% tax on net worth between $50 million and $1 billion. A 3% tax. Bruce Ackerman, a prominent constitutional scholar who provided Warren with legal guidance on the proposal, said he did not know how the justices would come down on the matter. But, he said, in response to inquiries, an aide to Warren pointed to some legal scholars supporting the plan. Those letters, but even those who have advised Warren on the legality of the plan are uncertain about what the nation's top court might do. The question of whether a wealth tax is lawful stems from the Constitution's ban on any national direct tax that is not collected evenly from the states based on their populations. That language originated in a compromise over slavery. In exchange for more than a century after the Constitution was ratified, wealth taxes were not thought to be direct taxes, and versions were upheld. But that changed in While the court later reversed itself on minimum wage and maximum hours laws, there has been no such reversal on a wealth tax. Dellinger said that Dellinger and Dawn Johnson, a law professor at Indiana University, published in last year too. In the early 20th century, there was nearly an opportunity for the High Court to reverse its earlier decision, which barred most wealth and income taxes. Democrats but President William Howard Taft, a Republican who would later become the only president to also serve as Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, feared that such a challenge could spark a constitutional crisis. Taft. So to avoid a skirmish, Taft pushed for the passage of the 16th Amendment to the Constitution. That amendment that ended the controversy over taxes on income. But debates over Ackerman and others dispute this, arguing that the intention of the 16th Amendment was to overrule the Supreme Court's 1895 decision. Frank said that such Still, even for experts who back wealth taxes in general, there are concerns that a proposal like Warren's would face the daunting task of amending the Constitution. 3/4 of the Thomas Piketty, author of Capital. Share this video. Got a confidential news tip? We want to hear from. Sign up for free newsletters and get more CNBC delivered to your inbox. Get this delivered to your inbox, and more info about our products and services. Copyright 2019 CNBC LLC. All rights reserved. Data is a real-time snapshot. Data is delayed at least 15 minutes. Global business. Data also provided by. Your browser is not supported. The requested video is unable to play. The video does not exist in the system. We're not able to play this video if an ad blocker is enabled. Please disable your ad blocker on CNBC and reload the page to start the video.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.